Welcome to our Good Friday reflection. A short time to consider, to pause on this most serious day, this most solemn day, as we remember the day, that Friday, that Jesus himself died. For our reflection today, we will have a Bible reading from Luke's Gospel, a reflection written by the Reverend Tricia Hillard, and we'll finish with a prayer, the well-known 23rd Psalm, which is a psalm that perhaps you can make your own today as well. Luke chapter 23, beginning at the 26th verse. As they led Jesus away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him, and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do this when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Two others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus, there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by, watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanging there kept deriding him and said, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." Having said this, he breathed his last. When the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised God and said, "Certainly this man was innocent." A reflection by Patricia Hillis. Today we arrive at the heart of the Passion, as Jesus is led out to his death. Cicero, the Roman orator, described crucifixion as the grossest, cruelest, and most hideous manner of execution. Partly this was due to its public nature, as the condemned were ruthlessly paraded through the streets, carrying placards declaring their name and offence. Perhaps intentionally to affront Jesus' accusers, Pilate had caused to be written, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." This was displayed not only in Latin, the language of the Roman Empire, but in Greek, also universally spoken, and Hebrew too. It seems to me that much of the storm centres around the question of who exactly this is hanging on the cross. Along with his body, his identity has been assaulted. Jesus has been made a pantomime king, dragging his cross throne along the public wayfare, bedraggled and bleeding, with his comic crown. At Golgotha, as he is nailed to and then labours on the cross, come further assaults on his deepest self. From the leaders, if he is the Messiah, let him save himself. From the soldiers, if you are the King of the Jews, save yourself. From the first criminal, are you not the Messiah? Then save yourself and us. Jesus has been physically stripped of his clothing and left exposed, his dignity torn away. Those who taunt him now also seek to strip him of his identity. Yet Jesus sets himself in relationship. In other gospel accounts, we read of his words to his mother and to his follower John. In Luke's account, we see him begin and end his torment on the cross in relationship with the Father. Father, forgive them, and Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. In and through relationship, Jesus roots himself to his very deepest identity, Son of God, the identity pronounced over him at his baptism. When Jesus had also been baptized and was praying, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended upon him in bodily form like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased." And while some taunted him, saying, "If you are, save yourself," others recognized him for who he was. They understood that he had come, not to save himself, but them, us. Jesus didn't respond to the jeering of the leaders, the soldiers, or the first criminal, but to the second criminal, he speaks words of inclusion, promise, and power. Recognition dawns for others too, including the centurion who watched him die. Even the natural world seems to shudder with the comprehension of just who this man is. In our present circumstances, when our streets are emptier than many of us can remember, in the stillness of our watching imaginations, might we catch a glimpse of the crucified and risen Christ walking them, and ponder who he is to us? In our present circumstances, might we take a few moments to rest in our own secure identity as beloved children of God? A time of prayer. The 23rd Psalm, words of David, that you may like to make your own. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you, everybody. See you on Easter Sunday.